And it's time, everybody, for Crunch Time with Brian and Clifford B.
Clifford B, actually. That sounds like a butler.
It does. Clifford B. Please bring
bring me my Dom Perignon and my slippers. Maybe a smoking jacket.
How you doing, man? This is episode 4.
I'm good. I'm feeling it. We're building. And today's guest I'm excited about. I've known him for like 20 years, and it's a beautiful day here in North Carolina. The Hurricanes hopefully have their final game before they go to the Stanley Cup Finals tonight. And I was hoping the bankers would come through with tickets, but I haven't seen anything yet. And because the vibe in that arena is just great. It's even better when somebody else pays for it. Sure. Privileged douchebag speaking right now. Onward and upward. Looking forward to having this chat. Getting my shingles shot after this. Getting old is fun. And I just, I want to get back to. I'm gonna have some time to play some games tonight because the wife is gonna be doing her Twitch stream. I can't tell if she's playing Arc Raiders or Repo. I don't know. I never can tell with her. Just whenever she plays Counter-Strike, she just gets mean, and I don't like it. But I want to. Have you seen that Elliot game? That looks like the spiritual sequel to like Link to the Past. It's just kind of
no.
Yeah, look it up. It's like The Adventures of Elliot or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Squeenix maybe did it, but it just looks like it's just tickling that little top-down Zelda thing that I have in me, and I've had the 3D Zeldas are great, but the top-down ones always have my heart.
I just got a Mina the Hollower, which is the Shovel Knight Studio Yacht Games follow-up, and it's getting
what's it called again?
Mina the Hollower. It's getting like 9 and 10s across the board from everybody. It's super. It's kind of hard, but it's pretty awesome. The music's great as you'd expect. It's got like that Link's Awakening Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color vibe style, but it's great.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to go back to West of Loathing or whatever that was because that game's hilarious.
It's so good. Speaking of your Hurricanes, my Knicks, which I've been waiting for a week and a half.
Oh yeah.
They have swept everybody, and I'm just waiting for them to get to the finals, which is June 3rd. I can't.
On my social media feed, Brian, I'm not seeing any plays. I'm not seeing anything. Well, besides that guy who falls over in that one team. But all I'm seeing is like anarchy in the streets as Knicks fans are finally like they're hanging on the light poles. They're playing hoops, but also borderline rioting. It's crazy. It's crazy.
We're a little nuts. All right. Yeah. Do you want to bring in our amazing guest today?
Yeah. Let's not keep the gentleman waiting.
Let's do it. I'll give him a good intro, and even though he's got a lot of stuff here, but I'm gonna do it as good as I can. Tom Bissell, everybody, is joining us today on the podcast. Critic, writer for Andor, disaster artist, and books Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Gears 4 and 5, Uncharted 4. Mosquito Coast on Apple TV. He's written 11 books. I've read 10 books. He's written 11. Tom Bissell's here with us, folks. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing great. Fourth show. I'm your. Which guest am I? You had a guest on every show?
Not the first one was just us. You are our fourth guest.
Amazing.
Top 5.
Then I actually we submitted the wife to this. She was kind of our guinea pig, and brought her on, and she did great. And we're building up. I'm just hitting up the Rolodex, and with all the stuff that's coming out about Gears in the coming week, and your experience on you left out Judgment, Brian, by the way.
Sorry.
Judgment, Gears 4 and 5, and where the franchise is going. And I think their decision to do E-Day is actually a really bold and awesome one in the department of give the people what the fuck they want, and just shoot the shit about the writing process, because when I double checked your resume, having known you again for 20 years. Man, we old. From writing, articles to writing, screenplays to writing video games to writing books and everything in between. It's one thing to be really good at one craft, but you really have proven that you can write across all of the varying, platforms. So that's great, man.
Well, I have. This is the only way I know how to make money, so it's kind of becomes a necessity that when an opportunity arises, that you learn how to do it. And I came into video game writing. You were like one of the first people that gave me a shot at this, and like when I think back now, like things I understand better now about like how to communicate narrative in an interactive space, how to communicate what visual storytelling is versus like just writing prose. Like I have learned an awful lot in the last 16 years, and I'm 52, and it's fun to like work in new formats because you have to be bad to mediocre at them for a little while to get good at them, and it's just part of the process, and it's a nice feeling to like still be excited about new forms of writing, and the last few years I've been doing mostly screenwriting, and that's been a fascinating learning process. So I feel very lucky that my career has had so many bizarre bounces, and I've gotten to work on so many different kinds of things.
But that's kind of awesome. I mean, the whole learning thing, that's one of my last tattoos I got was, the Michelangelo quote, I'm still learning. And I love, for me, learning the machinate. I actually downloaded Final Draft and took a shot at writing a short, and it turned out okay. And, but, learning, trying comedy and failing miserably. And then, the key is to get back up if you try something and you don't do that well at it. And that's how you get better. It's like my wife always, the niece playing her games with my wife, and she's like, everyone's so good. I'm like, yeah, that's how you get better.
Do you want to hear an interesting story from
Absolutely. You've got plenty, man.
So when I signed with my agency, one of the first things they do for new people is they send them out to meet some of their other like big shot clients. And I met writer, director, probably you've heard of him. He was very sweet, and we talked, and he just directed a big budget movie.
Oh, come on, you can name drop here. We're in a safe space.
No, I can't because the movie didn't do well.
Okay.
And he asked me if I had directorial ambitions, and I said no, I'm just a writer. And he said, good. And I said, wait, why? And he said, because he's like, here's the thing. I grew up on movie sets. I sold my first script when I was 23 years old. I stood next to directors directing for 35 years. I thought I understood directing and I thought I understood it. And then I get handed this big budget thing, and it was a miserable failure. And he said, and I realized at that moment that directing is like any other thing. You have to be bad at it for a long time before you're good at it. And just thinking you understand it doesn't mean you're going to be good at it, because there's so many nuances and weird little tricky things you pick up. And I thought that was like so immensely interesting that a guy who has spent his life on movie sets thought, I got this.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And he had the wisdom to understand that thinking you understand something is a radically different process from doing it well.
That's also everyone in the internet.
Yeah. I mean, so many things just in the arts in general is that, I mean, with stand up, and like you think Chris Rock wasn't, people bomb all the time. People that are still great now bomb all the time, but it's like, it's just a thing that happens, but you get better and better and better, how to handle it more. But early on, it's rough because you're figuring out who you are, what you want to say and how to say and all that stuff. And then, it does take time.
I mean, heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's fascinating that, this gentleman that you speak of, and I wish I knew, but you got to keep it in the circle of trust. Like that he wound up they're like, okay, this guy's a good writer, and then just boom, have a ton of money and direct this huge thing. And like, I would be terrified, because now, having licking my wounds from the things that I've had my successes and my failures, it's like, if I do something new, it'll be small. And just kind of, let's do something little and kind of relearn this, and then, build back up. But it's, a director once told me that when you're a director, when it comes to the talent of the actors, it's kind of like being a parent, because actors are needy. That's why they act. It's like, oh, well, I only get these few lines. And it's like, yeah, but, Billy, you get these lines, but you kind of steal the show with them. And you're like the linchpin of this one scene. So oh, wow, now I feel really good about doing the scene. And just, surrounding yourself with really talented people. That's one of the things, a director friend taught me, is have a great director of photography. And, what's the saying? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. If you have everything planned out in a good way, and then you can adjust for when things don't go right, and, happy accidents, there's still luck and the roll of the dice involved in all of that.
How'd you two be? We were talking before the show real quick. It was in 20 years. There's a New Yorker article. Did I hear whispers of? What? Tell us about that real quick.
I profiled Cliff for the New Yorker which if you're a magazine writer, especially a young magazine writer, getting into the New Yorker is like a big
Yeah.
career pinnacle, right? And I'd come close to landing stuff with them before, but then a mutual friend of Cliff's and mine named Heather Chaplin
Oh, I haven't thought about Chappie in forever.
suggested Cliff as a potential profile subject in the New Yorker. And I played the first Gears game and just absolutely fell in love with it. It just reminded me of all the stuff, all the kind of popcorn movies that I loved, like Predator and Starship Troopers, and it just tapped into that vein of just really horrific excitement, you know. And it was dark and it was moody and it was weird, and I just fell in love with it. And then when Heather recommended him, I thought, well, shit, am I going to get into the New Yorker profiling this? Because Cliff had a very larger than life personality at the time, and it was wild. Like, he was super welcoming, and I got, you know, this is my first time inside a video game studio. I played lots of video games, but seeing the inside of a studio, I mean, I'm going to say now, that experience, Cliff, probably changed my life, because I never probably would have gotten involved in video games to the degree that I have, like on the inside, had it not been for that experience. And you just made game development seem like a lot of fun. And now I know, holy shit, that was the wrong impression. But at the time, it seemed like a really cool thing to do. So
that's awesome.
I was the duck that's just paddling furiously underneath, and you know, I was partying really hard. But you could do that in your early 30s. And but you know, like, you're like, the game development studio is so exciting. It's just a bunch of dudes just sitting down like this.
It's true.
And the headphones, like, what do you want? Yeah, the AI is running into the wall. That's impossible. Get the fuck to my computer. Let's have a look, Steve. And then I was doing dual duty. Not only like, okay, here's the vision, here's what I want to do, playing the game. The blood got fucked up. Where'd the blood go, people? And then, okay, now we have you on a press tour, 5 European cities, 5 days, blah, blah, blah. And I was, you know, a fame whore at the time. I wanted to be in every magazine that would have me. I wanted to be known for what I did. I wanted to make great games. I wanted to make money doing it. And the internet loved it, and they also fucking hated it to this day. But so let's go back to the profile. It was very meaty, as all New Yorker profiles are. And the standout line that stuck with me was that Blazinski wears what I call exchange student jeans. Because I was wearing like designer Cavalli jeans and diesel jeans and all that. Can't quite fit into them as well as I used to. And also, it's like, he could be a model or a small town weed dealer. And, you know, saying, because I had my earrings in at the time, and I actually, because of that article, I took the earrings out for years after until I fell in love with Lauren. She's like, I saw the photos of you and your earrings. I missed the earrings. Could you maybe put the earrings back in tonight? I'm like, I'll do okay. Then it's actually a fun fact, is that one of the few times I actually did talk to my ex-wife, way before even I knew you, Tom. Her sister went to Princeton, and her sister was the big educated one in the family. And apparently her sister was so pissed off that I wound up in her magazine, The New Yorker. And I was just like, and that was a milestone. You're
happy to serve your petty intra-family,
of course.
rivalries.
Oh, I am petty, but you know, for me to be your gateway drug into, you know, working in the business, for better or for worse, yay.
You're welcome. I'm
been
sorry.
better.
Yeah.
I've worked on, Jesus Christ, so many games at this point. Some like where I was a lead, some where I was just pitching in, some where I was consulting. It's probably up to like 20 games or something at this point, and I've found it immensely satisfying and unpredictable. Like, just before we jumped on, I've been playing 007 First Light.
I've heard great things.
I worked on that game for almost 2 years. I was the first writer on that game.
No shit.
And it was a fucking nightmare. It was so hard. It was such a... And I'm playing it now, and everything just seems so effortless. I mean, they obviously figured it out.
Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting reminder of, like, early days on something. You can just be like, this thing is hopeless. This is never going to come together. And then, like, 7 years later, you're playing this thing, and you're just like, this just feels so easy and so effortless. And the level that I was playing last night was our vertical slice that we spent almost 2 years trying to figure out, and we never did. And that's when I left. And playing that level again, seeing like what they did with it, it was like astonishingly moving and made me really happy for the people whose misery I shared for so long trying to make something work. And
when you knew was that level coming up, like what did you feel when you saw it come like play?
I mean, I played the game up to that point, and I was like, "Holy shit, they figured this out!" But that level, I had some PTSD going into it, and it's a really special game.
That's that feeling though when you crack the code, and for us that was, I mean, there was the attack at East Barricade Academy, that was going up the stairs to Marcus's childhood home.
We're talking Gears 1 here.
Yeah, sorry, context. And the other for Gears 1, it was the fountain fight, where the emergence holes are hitting. And I wanted a fucking dog in that sequence, like Terminator, where the dog would actually bark at the emergence holes, but animation was like, well, then we have to do 4 legs and we have to figure out the legs planting. And I'm like, it's a one-off fucking dog, people. Years later, made a comic book about a dog superhero. But the whole thing you say, Tom, about making it look easy, whenever somebody says that, the number one example these days that pops into my head is that figure skater, Elisa Liu, I think is her name. And I don't even that big into figure skating, but watching her win the gold and like how she just was out there happy and just did this like incredibly difficult bit. And it was just beautiful and amazing. And now she's just like a superstar. But my question for you about Bond, and we'll get back to Gears, is how do you do Bond for this generation? Because, that's the thing is, with, when you had Judi Dench in the movies and, and all of the Bond dynamics, oh, James, you're incorrigible, being the womanizer, like how much of that bled through in the game? Like, I'm just curious for this new world order of outrage and progressive.
Yeah, well, he's apparently too woke nowadays. People hate it. It's like,
is that what they're saying?
Of course,
in the game at all. Like,
of course, it's not. But people have to. There's a woman in the game. Ah,
yeah. It's God forbid there be people of color or women in your games. Exactly. But Bond was a real tricky one. It was me and a few other people. We came up with this idea that we're doing this. We wanted an origin story Bond, and the idea. I don't know. I can't claim credit for this. Maybe this was partially my idea. That the 00 program existed and was shut down for like a decade, and so you come into this world where they're restarting the 00 program, and this young guy, an airman in the British Air Force or British Navy, I think.
Royal Air Force or RAF, yeah.
Yeah, basically gets into this situation and outperforms and is invited into this like secret. The 00s are starting again. And so we sold it to Barbara Broccoli, then was controlling it with Michael Wilson, the producers who controlled the Bond franchise at the time. Amazon does now. We sold it as the first, because if Daniel Craig was the first post 9/11 Bond, we were calling this like the first post truth Bond, like the Bond in the age of like unstable narrative and like no truth and and so that
fake news.
Yeah. And so I'm really delighted that original core thing that me and the other people that were coming up with how to contribute to it lasted.
That's cool.
But here, Cliff, you'll find this interesting. Bond, it turns out, is a design nightmare. Because Luke Skywalker's got a lightsaber, instant gameplay applications. Indiana Jones has a bullwhip, instant gameplay applications. We had so much trouble in the early days on Bond because Bond, he has gadgets, right? But in gameplay terms, all his gadgets are one-offs. So how do you build a gadget base that scales and that expands? And that proved really hard because there's no canonical Bond gadget that he's always using. He's got his Beretta and he's just got his charm. Hard to design a game around charm, right? Bond isn't a set of gameplay mechanics that instantly occur to you. Bond is a mood. And that's what we realized. Bond is just a mood. It's walking into a room and it's all the beautiful women turning to you if you're controlling Bond. And it's being able to talk your way out of situations, and it's being able to like think fast. And I think that the interesting thing with IO, they make the Hitman games. And everyone's like, oh, Bond's a layup for them. It's just Hitman except James Bond. No. 47 can wear a chicken suit. The thing that makes 47, the thing that makes the Hitman games fun is when things just go absolutely wrong and everything fucks up. And 47 is like putting on a pizza guy uniform, and it's kind of silly, but it's also awesome. Yep. And we realized, like with Bond can never look dumb. Like that just destroys the illusion, right? And so Bond can't look dumb and he can't be a straight up killer. Holy cow, are those hard guardrails to design gameplay around?
Yeah, because the footage I saw, he was just totally murking an entire room with his Beretta.
Well, so there's situations in the game when people express an intent to kill you, suddenly license to kill comes across the screen and you can start firing.
Do they literally do the whole? Do they play the stinger?
Yeah, they do. And
of course,
and my God, that it didn't occur to us when the group of people that when we were initially working on the game, like what a brilliant fucking idea. That's like cool. So simple.
And gamers
so
are like,
simple.
Finally.
Yeah, so simple, and yet it never occurred to us. So I am massively impressed with what they've done with that game.
That's cool. That's cool.
It's really delighting.
Really sold. I got to get that next. Yeah.
God, the thing about the gizmos and the devices, they were basically plot devices. You know, it's like, oh, now you need this thing to, on your watch to knock somebody out or something, and then now you can go to Morocco. Fine, cool. But the charisma thing I found interesting, especially for you as a writer, to make that difficult because it's kind of an RPG trope of like, that literally was the category charisma. When I was younger, I was like, what the fuck is that? I want all my armor. Get out of here. And, the silver tongue, the ability to talk your way into, a speakeasy or whatever Bond is up to. The dialogue trees, which would be a nightmare, of course, to work on. But it's just interesting you mentioned that was a challenge. I mean, it sounds like you overcame it because the reviews are fantastic.
I did not work on the version of the game that exists. Like,
well, whomever did it well.
They did an incredible job.
Does that mean we won't see a MacGyver or a MacGruber game anytime soon? Because it's hard to.
I would play the shit out of that.
One time game would be really fun, like a
one-off gadgets,
like Bond or Hitman, except even more overtly comedic. Yeah, that would be great.
Be awesome. Cliff, do you want to go into some gear stuff or just regular game stuff right now? I know you had.
No, I mean, the gear stuff. It's the the elephant in the room right now.
Let's have people waiting. Here's the one thing I wanted to rant about for a second. We were talking about this on text the other day. When you will put up a post, you'll either say a very harmless question, Cliff, or
this one, yeah,
or you'll retweet something. And so there was some guy the other day, I saw that tweet before you actually screenshot it. All it said, this one guy was just like, Fortnite's dead, Call of Duty's dead, NBA 2K is dead, Arc Riders is dead, video games are dead. There's no games anymore. And I want to be like, what the fuck? Where do you live? What are you talking about? There's 20 to 50 new games a week, if not more, that get released. Like if you only play 3 or 4 or one free-to-play game, yeah, I can see how you'd be pretty mad and that would get pretty boring. But like, holy shit, man, there's so many games out now. And the fact that people are just like, first of all those games I mentioned all sell millions and millions of copies, make millions of dollars. People buy them constantly. And there are so many people complaining how gaming is dead right now. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, go play an indie. Go play a game that doesn't have $1 billion marketing budget. Like, there's so many things you could play. And I don't know why people just are focused on 1 or 2 games and think that's all of gaming.
Well, they're only looking at one silo, mind you. They're only looking at the public Steam stats. And, they're not seeing the other stats in the other platforms. And, most games that are released these days are pretty much on everything. And the thing is, it's not cool to like anything in this day and age. And players often find their one silo. I play Apex, I play Counter-Strike, whatever. And then what you add in the social media fact that people, will say anything on any platform just to get a rise out of people. And then, I have an okay engagement on my Twitter. Not calling it X, sorry. And, it's like, you got $40 this month. I'm like, yay. But then some people out there are like, ooh, I can say something like, a girl's like, guys, by the time you're 22, if you're still playing video games, I'm not going to date you. And then the ratio's just like, and she's just like, ha, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And that's the world in which you live. Speaking of the post-truth world, right? Am I right? Am I wrong, Tom?
I'm someone I have not a single social media account.
And you're gonna outlive all of us.
It's amazing.
Not something I do. It's not something I'm interested in. I've avoided it my whole life. And Brian and I were talking about this briefly beforehand. I was immensely fortunate to sort of have my career going before all this shit happened, so I never really needed it. I realize now, being a creative in anything, like coming up without this stuff as a arrow in your quiver makes a hard thing even harder. But for me, like, I see nothing but posturing, disinformation, lies, and
That's only 90% of it.
It's only 90% of it.
Yeah, the last 10% is AI.
There's
Yeah.
delightful stuff on social media. Like I lurk on Reddit. I don't engage. I don't post. It's the thing I always tell my daughter: never post anything on any website ever. Like there's a rule for life: don't post. Do not share.
Just don't post.
Like just don't do it
Because the internet is forever.
How do you feel about
exactly.
about people saying like gaming is dead just because they're one game they don't like?
I have something to say on this.
Yeah, please.
What they're saying is that games don't make me feel like they did when I was 22 years old, and so they're confusing getting older and increased responsibility and more stress and more uncertainty with how games make them feel now. I remember rediscovering video games. So I played my whole life, right? But then I would sort of drift in and out. And the games that I was playing when I really got back into games big time around 2006, 2007, like there were some amazing games coming out at that time. Whole franchises that are now just mainstays were being born at the time. Assassin's Creed, BioShock, Gears, Uncharted.
Yeah. It
was a dead space, like an immensely exciting time where I felt like gaming had become like increasingly sophisticated with what their ambitions were, and really compelling narratives and stories and gameplay hooks, and like entire genres were sort of just being refined in a way that just felt genuinely exciting. If I look at the games that I play now, I'm not nearly as excited about sitting down with a new game anymore, kind of because, like you, Cliff, I've spent enough time in the slaughterhouse now to know that I'm never going to recapture that evangelistic excitement I had for the medium when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, rediscovering this medium, how it made me feel, how excited I got. But I'm wise enough not to look at games now and say, well, these don't speak to me in the same way. That means they're bad. Because there's a 22 or 23-year-old right now playing something like First Light, playing the next Gears game, that are going to rediscover it themselves for the first time. And they're going to discover it, and their excitement is going to be really powerful for them. People confuse their disappointment with new movies or new games or new music with what those things made them feel like when they were at the perfectly impressionable age for those mediums to really deeply affect them. And I think if people were more mindful of that, we would have a much happier series of discussions around this stuff.
Dude. Like that could be a fucking TED talk.
That was beautiful. I think you're dead on. Now, you mentioned something how you don't still have that excitement. Do you still get, like, when you see something you wrote in a game or something you contributed to, like this Bond thing, for example, do you still get a little like, that's cool, I helped with that a little bit? Do you still get a little excitement there when you, or even a show or a movie or anything like that?
Yeah, no, working on something and it works and it feels good for a minute, but then it's like on to the next. I'm a totally mercenary guy, Brian. Like, I never want to like look back. I try to look ahead, and that's really the only way to make a life creatively for yourself, is to try to live in the future as much as you can. And
you got one in the can, and you have to have three on the nibble.
Yeah, you got to have. That's your whole job as a writer. Is for every project that goes, 10 didn't. So you just have to be. You're like a fry cook, and you've got a bunch of things. You got a bunch of baskets you're lowering into the oil. And sometimes some of them work, most of them don't.
I mean, that's the same thing as I'm a voice actor by trade, and it's like, people see my stuff out there, the commercials, and it's just like, yeah, but you didn't see the 150 things that I auditioned for before this that I didn't hear back from. like that's the job. That's the worst part of it. But yeah, when stuff happens, it's great. But overall, it's like you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes that's people are never going to see.
That's the thing, the term that they use is the 10-year overnight success. People see what blew up, and they didn't see all the stuff you did before that didn't go anywhere or didn't work out, or the doors that were closed and slammed sometimes in your face. But you got back up on that horse and kept going.
Uh-huh. Is there a thing you worked on, Tom, that never came to fruition that you were like, this should have made it? Or do you have anything like that where, not that you regret, but just like, man, this was a really fun thing to do, and unfortunately it didn't work out?
Dozens. I'll break a little bit of news here. I think I can probably talk about this. The show has been discussed publicly enough. Kathy Kennedy mentioned it on her exit interview with the Hollywood Reporter when she left Lucasfilm. But after I worked on Andor, and after that, I got hired by Lucasfilm to do an Indiana Jones prequel show about Abner Ravenwood, his mentor. And it's probably the best script I've ever written, and I really loved it. And it didn't happen for a bunch of reasons. None of them were controllable by me. It was a complicated thing. But that is the show that being able to have contributed to because Indiana Jones is my favorite movie franchise of all time, nice. Even more than Star Wars. I was so obsessed with Indy when I was a kid, and having that year-long period where I was working on that show was just glorious. I loved it so much, and the fact that it didn't happen is, I try not to get regretful or upset about this stuff because I cannot control the outcomes. All I control is what's I'm looking at my computer here. I can just control what's in this little screen. And then I send it off and I hope for the best.
It's got to be hard though to separate that, because you like something, it's an IP that you love and you pour your heart into it, and then if it doesn't go, you're just like, oh, okay.
It was a tough one. It was a tough one. It was really tough, and maybe someday that'll get revived. I hope so, but that was a project that meant an immense amount to me.
You said it was one of the best things you've written. Do you think because your excitement, your love for the character itself was a reason why you did you go into it hard, or did you just get in a zone because you know the franchise so well, or why do you think it was so good?
Question. In my other life, I'm a travel writer, right? And I'm really obsessed with history and archaeology, and I love going to remote places. And that's all the shit Indiana Jones does. Yep. He loves history and he loves going places, and so it just, for me, it was just a really beautiful meld of what I like in real life transposed into a fictional universe I adore. That's and cool. I just felt like I was firing on all cylinders. So
that's cool. Sometimes you get in a zone, that's one of the best feelings. Like, this is really good. I love this.
Yeah.
We've all been there. Yeah.
So that's one that was a drag. What else? Oh God, I've been up for a bunch of stuff I didn't get. Game wise, I'm trying to think of did I ever work on a game that was canceled that didn't deserve it? Probably not.
Probably deserved it eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I've been on games that got canceled that if you're working on something for a year and a half, 2 years, and things are not clicking at all, that's a sign of a deeper issue.
Yeah.
Do you mean not clicking writing wise, programming wise, the team? What's not clicking?
All the same thing. It's all the same thing. Just if just everyone's not on the same, if they're not making the same thing, and there's just constant debates about who's really pulling the train here,
too many fucking cooks.
No, but collaborative art, the whole point of collaborative art is working together and giving a little and conceding here and holding firm here. That's the art that I've learned probably best over the last 16 years, is just how to be an effective collaborator. And how I put it is being really diligent, but also flexible. Because being diligent and being firm shows that you respect your own work, but being flexible shows that you respect other people's work. And doing that, I think, makes for a good collaborator. And the other big collaborating thing I learned is try to see the best version of other people's ideas and not the worst version. And I know I'm dealing with a non-good collaborator when I pitch something and they instantly pitch back to me the worst possible version of it. And you're like, yes, because that's how I want to do it. I want the dumb, idiotic version of what I
They do the pattern match dismissal of something that tried something similar and failed. Oh, like that one movie that came out in 1980. Get the fuck out of here, Jared.
Yeah. Well, Jared is really catching a lot of strays here. But so the thing I'm probably proudest of as a book writer, who are people who are fanatically controlling about, because you're writing a book. Cliff, you wrote a book. You're working with yourself and your editor, and it's a very small number of people, and ultimately you're the final shot caller when it's a book. When you're working on a TV show or a video game, and you're like an inflexible, my way or the highway kind of person, you might do well, but nobody's going to want to work with you again. And you're going to have a needlessly like punishing experience. Collaborative art is about learning how to work with other people. It's the thing I like most about it, because I can go back to my book writing and just be a little controlling fiend and do what I want. So I think the thing that has saved me in screenwriting and in video game writing has been, I have this other outlet where I can be like the purest, most controlling version of my creative self. But when I'm going to work with other people, I'm up for anything, man. Like, you tell me how
you can go home to that. Like,
yeah. And I always I tell creative directors, like, this is your vision. I'm going to do the best version of your vision I know how to do. Right. That's what my job is on a video game. So I'm trying to fulfill the vision of my boss as best as I possibly can. And do we argue sometimes? Of course we do. Do I lose fights? Yes. Do I win some? Very occasionally. But that is part of the like sociological game of it that weirdly I've always really enjoyed. Sometimes it's frustrating, but I genuinely enjoy working with other people.
We are getting some nuggets here today, everybody. I love it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. You're right. I mean, people have a hard time working with other people, but it's like if you're that way, then like you said, it's not gonna, yeah. It's not gonna, this isn't for you. It's not the thing.
Well, I mean, that whole thing about like, here's your idea, you know, how can I help you make it better? As opposed to, well, now I have my own idea about this. And it's like, well, there's such a fine line there. And like when you start vibing with somebody, and it's just like, oh, so I want to do this creature. And then you want, here's the attack pattern. And okay, well, what's it going to look like? And you get that really good rhythm. And that's what gets me out of bed really early these days. And that's what I enjoy. You know, that whole, like, you know, when the whole like time came where, you know, Tencent put a bunch of money in Epic, and I'm like, shit, I no longer have to argue with programmers about creative decisions anymore. Yeah. Sweet, get me the fuck out of here. I'm remarried and happy now. Fuck you guys.
Nice. I was telling him before, there's so many people responded to your post, Cliff, about any questions for Tom about Gears. Do you want to jump into a couple of those? I wrote down, I curated some of the good ones.
Oh God, sure.
And some of the ridiculous ones.
Well, I want to tell.
Okay, you talk to Cliff about stuff that I don't think has ever been disclosed.
Yeah, I'd rather do that. Let's go for it.
Yeah. Has it ever been revealed that the original plan for Gears 4, when it was still at Epic, was to go first person? Like, that's never come out.
Yeah. I may have mentioned it. Yeah. It was codenamed Pearl.
Yeah,
and
Pearl,
this is
exactly.
Yeah, games as service was becoming a thing, and I was using it's like, you know, the first part of the game that's released, the first Pearl, and then the subsequent ones are coming. Yep. And I wanted to, you know, chainsaw somebody in first person, and I thought, in hindsight, that would have been better for like a spinoff, you know, as opposed to, you know, like doing cover in first person, also incredibly difficult.
Very hard. Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that you know, if you had the time lapse where it's years later, and then the gears have like, you know, the ability to see through walls and night vision and you know, things they can throw, drones they can throw up in the air to spot enemies or take them out, all sorts of fun little gizmos there, which are more than one-offs than James Bond, by the way. And you know, that was the idea, but you know, like, you know, so many people left, like Lee Perry left and Rod left, and it was like I didn't feel like I had my Beatles anymore. You know, I felt like, and I'm only as good as the people that I surround myself. Going back to talking about a good collab, as the kids say, and for like 75% of my ideas, Rod would support them and be like, that's great, let's go with it. You know, same thing with the team. And then, you know, the times they'd shoot me down, I lost my share of battles, like the dog thing I mentioned earlier. But you know, wanted to play with first person, and but that actually kind of negates the whole point of Gears being the third person cover shooter, and that kind of died on the vine. And then, you know, the ideas for Gears 4, there's this, you know, the idea that, you know, when it's a new Gears game, you don't want to be fighting the Locust immediately. Like, let's wait. And, you know, this idea of these kind of over parental cities came in that Rob Otten was working on it at the time, if I recall, with you, collabing with you. Mm-hmm. And this idea of these, you know, cities there, you know, you're safe here. Everything's bad and scary on the outside. And then, you know, the idea of DBs and these robots.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff stuck, didn't it? That's funny. Like, a lot of the stuff from that version. Like,
well, you did this. We were in one of those, like, you know, big war room meetings, and you had written down this like half page, like, you know, they come at night, mostly kind of monologues, and you could hear a pin drop when you finished that monologue, and it was just like everyone's like, yeah, no, I think that's where we go. and it was a really, really
I have
great
no memory
moment.
of this. I have no memory of this.
Yeah, well, I remember you had that like college professor who can really control the room kind of vibe that day. Um, and then, the robots came out and gamers were like, we don't want these goddamn robots. And then, like, years later, Pragmata comes out and the main enemies are all robots and people loved it. But that's neither here nor there. But we were so hung up on the idea that if we're going to do a new Gears, that we didn't want the Gears killing humans. And that was such a sticking point. And, we got in these arguments. Well, if they come at me, kind of like the whole license to kill thing, if they're coming at me and shoot me, I'm going to shoot the motherfuckers. Like, big deal. Then I had a whole like rant I did on Twitter about where we could go with, justifying, killing humans. There's savages in the outlands that are addicted to emulsion dust, and they're cannibals, and they're like the Reavers and Firefly and Serenity and things like that. And that the wit of the staircase, right? Like that came out years later in my head. But I think ultimately, where 4 and 5 went, I think there's a lot to like there. And I think a lot of the cynical gamers are like, oh, you did the younger cast and now it's all woke kind of thing. And it's like, well, the grizzled old dude thing only plays so well for so long until they have to pass the torch.
Yeah, there were 3 of them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's why, I think, in my opinion, JD should have been tortured by something. And that's where, my whole thing about the emulsion dust being a drug and having him hiding his addiction from those around him, living in his father's shadow.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah, it could have been really compelling. And, he starts feeling those urges to like the cannibals have and things like that. And, he overcomes, his father's shadow and his addiction and things like that as a kind of a subplot. And, but robots. So, and where the swarm went, I think, I mean, not to insult everyone's hard work, but I played a bit of 4 and 5. I can't really call out any distinct, swarm enemy that I fought against. They all just kind of looked like kind of these blobby versions of the Locust. And maybe I should have played it longer. I don't know. But I still, my whole pitch to Rod was the Locust should have had wings. I think they should, when they were in hibernation, they should have emerged as full on, like they were in a cocoon and now they're evil, deadly butterflies. But that one got pushed back against a lot.
Wow. Before
they came from below, now they come from above.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that's all ringing bells. Yeah, wild.
Well, I mean, the idea that, you're on raised platforms and then, they fly up, they land, and then they're coming at you, using their wings as like limbs and stabbing people with them. And then when you damage them, they start to fly away and you're seeing your shots through their wings, you're getting that kind of subdermal lighting. And then, they start crashing down when you damage them. They're retreating and things like that. And, the possibilities there I thought were really interesting. But you know what? Yeah, the animation and the AI burden would have been probably pretty big for that.
Yeah, we had a flying enemy at Gears 5 at one point, and man, did they try hard to make it work. And it never felt good fighting them, just because of the way Gears is set up. It's very much a plane shooter, and when you had to like go up for something other than like a one hit kind of kill, like a Nemesis or something like that, or it started to feel really funky.
I would have just made it part of the combat pattern, where they're in cover, then they fly up, wings, zip to a new cover location, bomb, zip back down. And that's your window to, right? We're getting into the weeds of it all. But the thing is, flying enemies are usually really fucking annoying in games. Like even, as much as I love Pragmata, those little ones that would target you, and they always wind up right on top of your head and you're hearing it. You're like, where the fuck is it? Especially in third person, then you're like, oh, get the fuck out of here,
I mean, even going back to the bats in Castlevania, they're so annoying. The flying little bats.
They're always over your head. But I mean, that's the reality of game development is you're balancing the narrative with the art and then with the gameplay loops and all of that. That's the thing I always tell people. It's a miracle that a video game ever ships in the first place. And I was talking about, Tom, if you're open to talking about it, the stress that the toll that this took on you. Are you open to talking about it?
Oh yeah. It was a lot. I mean, I'm always working on multiple things, and Gears 5 is a pretty big game. It's huge. I mean, the script of that game is thousands of pages long.
Wow.
And Rod always wanted to get me help. Rod Ferguson, our beloved Rod Ferguson, one of my dear friends, and
the Rod Mower.
I worked with him for a long time, and still love him to death. And he was always saying, "We got to get you help." And I was like, "No, I'm just going to do it." And it wasn't until the last maybe 6 months of Gears development before it went gold that I conceded to him I desperately need someone to help, because
was it a control thing early on, or you just feeling it and you just want to do it yourself, or what was the reason for that?
I don't know. The thing I loved about, because I've worked on a lot of companies, and typically I'm the writer. I write stuff. It goes to like a level designer who gives me notes, and then it goes to the producer who gives me notes, and it goes to the creative director who gives me notes, and you're constantly collating like 5 layers of notes. When I was working on Gears, I'd write my script, Rod would read it, he'd give it the thumbs up or give me the thumbs down. And so like working with just one layer of scrutiny at a company was like a miracle. And it's why I worked on Gears as long as I did, because it was just a very fulfilling creative process. Like I didn't have to go through so many layers of saran wrap to actually get anything put into the game. And so it was just a really good process for me that I was trying to fulfill Rod's vision and Matt Cersei's vision, who's the creative director of the coalition now. I was just trying to be a team player and just try to do the best I could.
What happened that made it so grueling towards the end? Like
the scope of it, the scope of work. Like
took years. Did it take years to do it?
It took years, and there was a period where I think I'd fly to Vancouver, and that's when I got most of my time with the game, and I would just play it, and write, and I was working like 18 to 20 hour days for 8 to 10 days in a row.
That'll do it.
And at one point I came back from Vancouver and I fell into bed and I slept for like 12 hours, and then I went for a walk, and the whole left or right side of my body went numb while I was walking. And I thought, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. I'm too young to have a heart attack. And then I realized, A, I'm not. And B, I just put my body through like an insane level of stress.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm in Cedars-Sinai Hospital, like thinking I'm having a heart attack. I wasn't. I was dehydrated, and they thought I was having a panic attack, but I didn't feel like that. I think I was just a wreck. Yeah. So after that experience, Rod insisted that we bring someone in to help me over the finish line, and that person, his name is Taylor Clark. He was the writer on Gears Tactics. He's now he's doing great. He's working for Gearbox, and he's doing a game there, and he's just a wonderful dude, and he saved my bacon on Gears.
Now, you said you'd play the game, then you go back and write. Was it like vice versa? Like, did you write stuff and then they would make it, or did they make it and then you would write, or was it kind of like both of those things? Like, how does it work on these big games like that?
Here's what you do.
Yeah.
You come up, it's like a little bit of a story summit. Cliff, you've been in enough of these. It's you, it's a bunch of people, it's a writer, it's a level designer, it's an artist, it's a producer, it's a creative director. It's like the director level people, the lead level people. And you get sit in a room for a week and you bash out something. Then I, the writer, go off and I come up with a treatment. And then that treatment gets distributed to people who start thinking about, well, what do levels look like with this story structure? And what are some cinematics we know we're going to have? Like, based on this treatment, what are some story moments we know we need? And then I would go off and write versions of those story moments. And then sometimes you would shoot those. You'd get temp actors, or maybe you'd even get real actors. And you just do a couple of those and you throw it over to the cinematics team, and they'll start because you're just trying to establish your pipelines, right? You're just trying to figure out like who's going to do what, how efficiently do people work together. So you get that. You get some roughed out ideas for levels. You shoot a couple rough cinematic scenes, and then people start coming in and like figuring out, well, what if this goes here and this goes here? Game stories never resemble that first treatment, It's always just so radically different. And my favorite thing on any game is to go back and read our original documentation for what we were planning to do, like after the current, and just remind yourself, oh, this game was like going to be something radically different.
Yeah.
And it's just a process of like figuring it out as you go. And this differs from TV and movie writing, because when I write a script, you're hiring people and casting people based on a complete script. So everyone's coming into the process saying, oh, this is what we're making? Got it. Games, you're writing them as you go. So you're playing paintball with cheetahs, because everything is moving so fast, and scenes that you wrote that were like totally workable in one sense, suddenly all the level that was going to need to get you to that moment has now been cut, and you're like, well, what the fuck do we do now? So you're just constantly moving pieces around. Game stories, I used to shit on them a lot. Now that I know how hard they are to make and why they struggle and why they're often very awkward, is because you're up against all these ridiculous production constraints. And everyone's like, well, they should make games different. Guess what? They've tried. This is literally the best way to make them. Yeah, nobody would have chosen this way if it wasn't most of the time the best way to make them.
I want to play cheetah paintball in VR now. Yeah. I think that should be our next game, guys. Cheetah paintball.
Well, let's do some Gears questions. I'm curious.
Okay. The ones we're not going to ask is obviously, like, why is Gears 5 so gay? Will 6 not be as gay? That was what somebody asked.
I tried to make it as gay as possible. So...
I feel like that's like a Jiminy Glick question.
Hey, I was always Gears
5 so gay?
I really wanted Gears to end with Marcus and Dom just like
just going maximum gay, because as a professional woke writer, because I think everything about me screams wokeness and real question.
Yeah. And by the way, people, if you're listening, you had a million questions. I narrowed it down. We're not gonna be able to answer them all, but if your question's in here, great. People did it, and you sort of mentioned before. Why did you abandon Marcus? He's like the Mario. Were there plans to kill him off? But you mentioned like the old gruffy guy only lasts for so long. You had to kind of bring in a new character. I understand that, but any other thoughts to why the switch?
Like I'm going to go to bat for Old Man Marcus. I think Old Man Marcus is the most interesting Marcus, and I'm not just saying that because I worked on Old Man Marcus, but I think that like should he have been controllable? Maybe, I don't know. That was the call we made. Was it the right call? Possibly not, but like I think the places, especially John's voice as Old Man Marcus, John DiMaggio's voice is so rich and good and interesting. I loved writing Old Man Marcus, and I grew up with
fucking tomatoes.
I grew up with a PTSD affected Marine father who was all fucked up from the war in Vietnam, and so a lot of that went into my old version of the Old Man Marcus, and John, of course, made it his own, and the animators make it their own. But we're all contributing to trying to create a character that is memorable. And I think we just moved away from him because they're like, well, the dude just had 3 big smash hit games. Let's try to do something new. And that was all it was. It was just trying to like satisfy old Gears fans and bring in and try to create new fans along the way. I mean,
which is always easy. Yeah.
On
a similar plane of the stuff that you added to the Gears franchise, what are you most proud of? Like on top of what Cliff did, like kind of you taking over the writing part or whatever. Like what are you most proud of that you added to it?
Like the thing I always loved about Gears is that the COG is like it's a fascist government. Like none of the characters are aware of that, right?
What's that like?
They wouldn't call it a fascist government because they don't have the word for it, right? But in any other game fiction, the COG would be the bad guys. But in the Gears world, just by virtue of the Locusts being so fucking horrific, the COG are the good guys. And I really like playing with that element of the kind of soft, I would call it the soft fascism of the COG world. And seeing how all the different characters respond to it. Like Marcus has no truck for it. He doesn't like it. And he gets special dispensation. He's like a respected dissident in the Gears in the post Epic Gears games. And I always kind of liked that complication of this guy fighting for a government he detests because he knows the alternative is like a million times worse. And that tension in those games, how surfaced it is, I don't know, but it was certainly something I tried to surface and tried to make dramatically legible. And I like that dynamic of just seeing the COGs, as I keep calling it, the soft fascism of the COGs sort of brought to full flower in those new games. I thought that was I thought it was compelling. I liked it.
Was it there's a good question here. Was it difficult to continue the franchise without the original team, without Cliff, while trying to create something new of something that was your own? Was it hard to kind of blend those and sort of continue the storyline of the plot?
Everyone at the Coalition was immensely respectful of the work Epic had done. like reverent toward the work Epic had done. I certainly was. Like just on a gameplay level and just on a like world building level. We tried to treat the original stuff with respect and reverence at every opportunity, and I think the one old time Gears head we had was Greg Mitchell, the wonderful great Greg Mitchell.
Yeah, Greg's a great guy.
The cinematics director. I adore Greg, and he
Greg,
yeah. Go ahead.
Greg submitted a question. You ready?
Oh my God, Greg Mitchell, say hello. Yeah.
He said, "Ask him what it was like working with that asshole Greg Mitchell. Actually, just tell him to call me."
I was just going to say, Greg Mitchell is one of the best cinematics directors I've ever worked with.
Give him a call.
That guy made scenes better than they were consistently. And early in Greg's and my relationship, he would come to me like, I kind of want to change this for blocking. And he'd be very apologetic about it. And because I was young and dumb, and I'd be like, well, you can't change that. And then as we worked together more, we just developed this way of working together where he would know when to ask me and when not to. And he would just change stuff because he knew it would make it better. And it's so great when you work with someone that you develop an intuition with, where they're like, okay, I'm going to change this. And he's not going to mind that. But this thing might bug him. So I'm going to ask him about that. And then we would just come to like really fun compromises. I love to death working with that guy. And Greg, you call me, goddammit, you got my number too.
There you go.
Greg would introduce himself as, people would be like, what do you do in the game? He's like, I do all the parts that you skip. And it's like, we go to YouTube once in a while. We look up the Maria death and the Dom death, and we made people cry with all that. So.
Were there any unused storylines from Gears 3 that were or weren't used in Gears 4, or stuff like left over, or was it all just clean slate type of stuff?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I do remember when Gears 5 came out, people being upset that we'd given the backstory of the Locust and that we'd somehow created this idea that humans created the Locust. And I'm like, guys, that was the idea from the very beginning. It's in Gears 2. Everyone at Epic whispered to me at one point, yeah, someday we're going to do the game where we reveal that COG created the Locust. Like, that has been baked into the franchise from the very beginning.
Yeah, it was Mount Kadar, right?
Yeah, like
and the K-Tiff and all that. That's why Kate was called Kate.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that's something I'm really proud of in Gears 5 is when you explore the second lab that you realize that they had after they leave this place called Mount Kadar, where they did the initial. No, excuse me. They left New Hope and they went to Mount Kadar to sort of do more extreme, more elaborate kind of stuff. Like all the ambient storytelling built into that level with the memos and stuff. Like, I fucking hate memos, dude. When I pick up a memo in a video game, I look at it, even the ones that I've written or my friends have written, I'm like, nope, not reading that. But the memos in that sequence in Gears 5, where we sort of tell the story of this lab, I was immensely happy with. I think it turned out really well, and I was very gratified to just the amount of lore people dug for, and the Gears wiki I thought was really gratifying and satisfying. They were making all these connections that were not implicitly made, but that there were pieces that you could put together. So that
goes back to the day I was sitting in Andrew's office, one of the main programmers, brilliant dude. And I was like, I don't want the Locust to be aliens from space. I want them to come from the underground of the planet. And he did the whole programmer. I don't buy it. And I'm like, what don't you buy about it? He goes, how did they get there? And I'm like, that was my programmer voice, by the way. And I'm like, we'll figure that shit out later. Let's just go with it.
It's funny, like just reading all these questions on your thing, Cliff. I feel like sometimes the fans know more about this stuff than the people who actually created it.
Oh,
and
100%.
I think that shows a lot of love
100%.
for it. It shows how good of a thing it actually is. Like, people are nuts about like some of these things. Yeah.
So Lawrence Kasdan wrote 3 Star Wars movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wrote Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens. Do you think Lawrence Kasdan has ever delved into the extended universe or read any of the Star Wars novels? No, he is not. I promise you he is not.
I love and respect the hell out of Karen Travis, but I haven't read any Gears novels at all. It's because it's like it's too much. Like, and that's the thing is, you don't want to drown in your own IP and fiction. Like, you got to have that.
You're smelling your own farts at a certain point.
Exactly, and then audiences can feel and smell that themselves. You know, and it only smells good to you.
Yeah. We'll do 2 more kind of. One is just there's a bunch. I'll try to combine them all. The choice in Gears 5. People like, how can you make a 6? What's canon? You made us choose. Why'd you make us choose? Any response or thoughts about that whole That whole thing that people seem pissed off and happy and whatever about.
Yeah,
It
like
was stupid. It was
that
stupid.
was a swing. That was a late arriving idea, and I wrote it as best as I could. The question is, how the hell are we going to do this later? It was very much, we'll figure that out at the time. And I think it is interesting that the coalition pivoted to a prequel rather than figure that out, because it really was a head scratcher. And
maybe they're still scratching heads.
I have no opinion on who's canon and who's not. That is not my call to make.
Interesting.
I don't know if, like, I think, in the experience of playing the game, I think it's a pretty affecting moment. But where it leaves you as a person who loves the franchise after the credits have rolled, that's a different question. And I think it's a hard question. So I don't envy, if that storyline ever gets continued, I don't envy the people who have to continue it, because that's a real tough one to work out.
Like the end of Last of Us 2. I mean, we can spoil it now, obviously, but that, like, I don't know if you played that, but it's like,
Of course, yeah.
one of the best things I've ever played in my life. Like, that's really what that does to your mind. Like, because the first 2 games, you love Ellie so much, then you hate Abby, but then you start liking Abby, and you start hating Ellie, and there's no choice at the end. You gotta do so. You gotta either beat the shit out of her, and you're just like, wait, hold on, do I love this person? Do I hate this person? I thought that those choices and those moments in games, I think, are so hard to pull off, and when it's done right, you're just like, God damn, that was good. That was amazing, So I imagine with the people choosing in Gears 5, that's what they're mad about or feel like. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the right answer is, So yeah. They're feeling something there.
If you're gonna kill somebody in a game like that, the death should count. And
yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Interesting. This one seems to be an open-ended one, not just Gears specifically, Tom, but it's a very deep question. They said, you've talked in the past about the tyranny of plot in traditional fiction, but looking at your recent Hollywood stuff where the narrative structure has to be incredibly rigid and disciplined, I personally am fascinated by how those two mindsets collide. How has mastering that intense puzzle box architecture of major franchise storytelling changed the way you view the total freedom of writing prose? Good question.
I had a breakthrough when I was working on the show Andor with Tony Gilroy, who is, I would think, the greatest living screenwriter. And I discovered that neither Tony nor his brother Dan, who is also an astonishingly good screenwriter, or Bo Willimon, also an astonishingly good screenwriter, none of them think about plot. What they think about is behavior. And Tony said something that broke my brain, and I've never recovered, and I believe it as fervently as I believe anything. He said, if you get the behavior right, the plot takes care of itself.
What do you mean by behavior? Explain that a little
Characters
bit.
making choices.
Yeah.
And another thing, he doesn't, like, character implies, this is another thing I learned, is I don't talk about character anymore either. Because people get this monolithic idea of character. Well, that's not their character. They wouldn't do that. Well, guess what? In real life, good people do deceitful, bad things, and bad people sometimes behave with kindness and heroism. And so pulling away from character as like this monolithic, I just hit my mic, this monolithic thing that controls a person's destiny, and thinking more about behavior. What is truthful behavior for people in extremely dire circumstances, or even non-dire circumstances? What is truthful behavior for them to engage in? If you're thinking plot first, and I see this all the time in big budget movies, when the plot necessitates your characters behaving like idiots or doing things that are completely non-truthful or non-believable, then you've got a real problem, because the plot is happening independent of anything characters are doing. And when you see movies where the plot is growing out of the character choices and behavior, you care so much more for them in the tense action sequences, because it feels all jammed together and it feels like it's one thing. It feels like all of it was working together, that the choices, the behaviors you're seeing these characters engage in ultimately and fatefully led them into this situation that is now filled with peril and danger. And oh my God, it's so delicious, I can't stand it. You feel like you're watching something organic and real happen in front of your eyes. When you're seeing something that feels mechanistic and clanky and metallic, and these things, plates are banging together and characters are doing things that you can't explain just so the big set piece can happen, that's doing it wrong. It took me a long time to realize that.
Is that hard to do?
Storytelling
Yeah.
gravitates toward plot first for a lot of reasons, a lot of them understandable reasons, because the spectacle is sort of the coin of the realm.
Yeah, well, that also, I think, that was, of course, very well said as always, dude.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I think a lot of what you described in a bad way is what's been happening to comic book, big AAA comic book movies in the last like 5 to 8 years, which is why a lot of people are just kind of tuning out. Like, okay, let's get to the big bad CG, battle at the end. Whereas I like the smaller, more intimate stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, is that hard to do? Like, not going plot first, like you said, and doing the other. Like, is that harder to do now, or now you're kind of like that's the way you write now?
To me, like, it's all about the people. It's all about the characters you're writing about.
Yeah.
And having some idea of what you want to happen is good, but letting through the writing and then later through, if you're lucky, the performance and the choices the actors are making, and just letting the full collaborationist that's a bad word. The full collaboration-esque quality of everyone coming together and creating this stuff, and just letting that flower and determine sort of where you can still surprise yourself, where stories can go that maybe you weren't expecting them to go. That, to me, is what makes me excited about collaborative writing. And games are a trickier thing for that, because when you've got 14 people working full time on a level and a sequence that can't change because it's been there for 2 years, and you're like, this doesn't really make sense for the choices our characters are making now. You just, as a game writer, you just kind of have to eat it. You just have to get them to that place no matter what, one way or another. And that's where, game narratives sort of take it on the chin, because you can smell it in games so much more often. Even excellent games, you can just smell, oh, they couldn't change this, so they just had to make it work. Dude, the amount of things I've just had to do my best to make work, I could talk for another hour about that. And it's always dispiriting when you see a moment like lambasted in a review, and it's like, it does. Clearly, it doesn't work. Obviously, like, if only you knew, like, the fights I had to try to prevent this from happening. It's terrible to get crucified for something you yourself argued against. But that's
also the problem when you get exponential feedback is you get, it turns into a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and everything gets whittled down, and the original vision is lost. And that's why it sounds like you and Rod, working together was a good thing, because it wasn't like that huge group.
Yeah,
like our screenplay is going to be great. We have 12 screenwriters on it. Sure.
Yeah. You want to work with people you argue with, but you never fight with. Right. That's a healthy relationship.
That's good. A lot of that comes out of mutual respect, right?
Yeah. Cliff yells at me all the time off stage. Like,
well, you guys have an unhealthy, sick fucking relationship.
He just screams at me and get our viewers up. Make the clip.
Can I say one thing about the next Gears game? I'm still, I hope, on very good terms with people at the Coalition. I am so excited about it, and I'm dying to play it. It's going to be wild to dive into that franchise on something that I've had zero visibility on the entirety of its making. And man, to be able to play a Gears game again with no prior exposure to it, I
think that the trailer was brilliant, and I think it's a brilliant move for them. For me to watch it, Mark, they're showing off the locusts are really, really difficult. And they're showing, yay, the war's over. Now fight a new war, and TV to the head's always great. But the fact that the music, you hear some of the Mad World coming in a little bit, and then the Maria theme, and then Marcus is falling, and the hand comes. And then, the do-rag goes back on. I got chills, and I'm like, that totally sounds like smelling your own farts type stuff, but it really sounds like they get it. And I'm just curious how they're going to do with all the new what weapons you're going to have, like all the mechanics of all that stuff. But that's their problem. But I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll be watching it. And
I once got into a fight with a fan at some event who asked me, because like Gears of War Judgment breaks canon because it has the Lancer, and the Lancer technically in the world had not been invented yet. And we talked about it. We're like, do we not have the Lancer? Because according to the lore, it doesn't exist yet. And every person sitting at that table was, we're going to release a Gears of War game without its most famous fucking weapon? No, idiot, we're not doing that. And, like, It's like a Star Wars movie without a fucking lightsaber in it.
Well, that was like that Nicolas Cage Superman. Like, no, I don't want the cape, and I don't want him to fly. You're like,
What are we doing? What are we doing, guys?
He's just a reporter in this version, okay? That's all he's doing.
I told this fan who was complaining about breaking the lore, I'm like, so just so we're clear, you'd rather not have one of the greatest weapons in the history of video games in this Gears of War game. You'd rather not have it.
What would have been a fun angle though is to do like the prototype. Here's all the prototype ones that you can chainsaw one guy and then it breaks.
That's what we were gonna do that, Cliff. That was that. We just didn't have the.
It's got like 3 teeth, and there's this scene where he goes to chainsaw, and the locust is like, "What?" And he punches him, like that kind of shit.
He's gonna plug it in. It's like, hold on.
Yeah, exactly. It's not charging. Give me a minute, okay?
It's a prototype. Hold on a second.
And it's the wrong charger. I think I said to this fan, you're aware that none of this stuff really happened, right? Yeah, but that this isn't real history. That it's just all made up to serve the experience.
It's still real to me, damn it! It's like that wrestling clip.
It matters to them, and the story that I always love to tell is I was at Comic-Con doing signing whatever shit I did, and this older woman comes up and she's like crying, handing me Gears stuff, saying Gears saved my life. And then I start crying, and I like, do you want a hug? Like, and I signed all her stuff, and like, we all like to eat and pay our bills, but that fandom, as frustrating as it can be, it's worth its weight in gold.
Any fandom is filled with beauty and love and insanity and
insanity is a good way of putting it.
I'll drop another Tony Gilroyism here that has been very helpful for me. Working on Andor. Star Wars, a franchise that big part of my life, and getting to work on it, and he said something about people coming in to work on the show who had this big reverence for Star Wars. He said it's really beautiful, but it's not always useful. And I think because people would play the costume, actors would play the costume, they wouldn't play the person. And you get that Star Wars stuff on you, and suddenly you're in Star Wars, and you're playing the costume. And the first thing he told me when I went off to write my scripts on that show was, forget it, Star Wars. And what he meant was don't be too reverent. Remember, we're telling our story, and the show is shot through with all this reverence for Star Wars, but it doesn't feel like it exists to perpetuate the brand. And
I wonder if that's why it's loved so much, because people say, even if you don't like Star Wars, you'll like this. I wonder if that's why, you guys just nailed that part of it. Where it's
the Andor that I watched showed the Empire as being just dicks in a good way.
Yeah, no, they're for the first time, they're real human beings on the Empire, and they're making, again, behavior. They're making interesting choices based on who they think they are and what they want, and that's the whole ball game for effective drama.
That's great, man.
I mean, that was awesome stuff.
I'm actually hitting a hard stop here. Unfortunately, I could hear Tom talk all day long.
Yeah, me too. That was so good. We'll have to have you back one day when Gears isn't so gay. We'll have you come back.
And full circle.
Getting less gay.
Yes,
by the hour. So,
is there anything? Sorry, go for it.
No, I was just going to say I don't even view that word as an insult. So I reject the parameters of lobbing that as an insult. So
for regular people, it's not. It's just these incels online. Is there anything coming up that we will be able to see your work in that we should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, a game I've been working on and off for a couple of years is getting its premiere trailer in a couple weeks. Can't mention what it is. And I have no social media to proclaim I was attached to it when it does come out. So.
Can you send me a text when it's live so I can plug it?
Yeah.
Email us. Yeah, email us when it's.
I got a piece coming out in Playboy in July. Fun. Magazines, they still exist.
Is it full frontal? Full frontal, or are you
no, a piece of prose. Playboy magazine does publish very good prose. And what else do I got working on? It's just a bunch of stuff that is in early days. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So don't follow him.
Yeah, don't follow me. You can't follow me.
Can't anyway. Beautiful world. Beautiful life to live.
Ethan Hunt of video games.
I was gonna say Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, and also if you are on social media, guys, and you can quit it, can't recommend it enough. Speaking to the audience now, not to you guys.
That's fine.
You will be so much happier.
I know. Tom Bissell, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody else, thanks for listening. Please like and share this and tell everybody you know. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Tom, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
Take care, man.